Meditation.
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 Meditation has quickly become one of the biggest buzzwords over the past few years, and for a good reason. I've been practicing various forms of meditation for 6 to 7 years now, and I've experimented with lots of different practices that last between 10 seconds to over 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours.
We've got a badass over here.
Now today I want to break down my top 4 specific meditation practices, their pros and cons, which ones I find to be the best, and how you can use them to positively impact your life. And if you stay to the end, I might even give you a bonus technique. Now before we begin, let's just give some context and explain what meditation actually is. Now, according to the very reliable Wikipedia, the definition of meditation is a structured interactive process where an impartial third party assists disturbing parties in resolving conflict. Meditation is the practice where an individual uses a technique such as mindfulness or focusing the mind on a particular object, thought or activity to train attention and awareness and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm, stable state. That was a much better definition. Now the first 2 techniques that we're going to talk about today are primarily mindfulness based, and the other 2 are breathing based. I guarantee you haven't heard of the last one. Like a cryptocurrency YouTuber saying this is not financial advice, I am also going to say that I have no qualifications in this space. I'm just a regular guy sharing his experience. So let's get on to the first type 1, and it's what I call the universe effect. The time is approximately 3 minutes long. Now, okay, the universe effect is my earliest memory of meditation. In fact, I didn't even know I was meditating at the time. I was around 16, I had a lot going on in sport and exams and teenage hormones, so life was just go, go, go. Now, one lunch break, we had the chance to do an activity that involved yoga. Well, I thought it was yoga at the time, but instead we sat in a hall and this guy showed up, told us to sit on the floor, close our eyes and listen to what he had to say. He asked us to visualize we were looking at ourselves from the third person, then to acknowledge our presence and move through every person in the room. Thereafter, acknowledge all the people playing outside, everything that's happening around the school, and then our city, and then our country, our planet, solar system, galaxy, and so on. Amazingly, after getting completely and utterly lost in his voice, I opened my eyes with a sense of just complete calmness, knowing that what was going on in my head is so minutely small in the grand scheme of things that it doesn't really matter, so why stress? I found this to be a really effective technique to do when you're stressed about the small issues, the small things in life, and you need a bit of perspective to how grand everything is in comparison to your insignificant existence. Now, a big caveat of this technique is that it's difficult to vary. You know, it can get a little bit monotonous over time, and I think you might find yourself wanting to develop a lot faster from it, and that's what I did. That leads me to the second type of meditation, which you've probably heard of before. It's an app called Headspace. So Headspace is an app that provides you with daily meditations and mindfulness exercises. Now this wasn't just down to the founder and voice of Headspace, Andy Puddicombe, who's the Buddhist monk turned entrepreneur who could make the phone book sound peaceful, but what it did was it destigmatized people's perception of meditation and made it normal to take 10 minutes out of your day to observe your thoughts. I know this because it destigmatized it for me too. What I really loved about Headspace is just the sheer amount of content they have. If you're experiencing an emotion or want to improve in a certain area, Headspace probably have a full course on it. I've clocked up around 12,000 minutes on Headspace and on the app, and I can certainly say it has given me an amazing foundation in mindfulness. If I were to say one thing about the app, it's that even though they have thousands of hours of content uploaded, a lot of the practices are very similar. And though one of the most fundamental aspects of mindfulness is that, it can never be finished, after around 6 years of using the app, I felt like I had reached a saturation point where I needed something new. And that brings me to the next form of meditation. Maybe a stretch to call it meditation, it's more breathing, but I'd still categorize it in the same way, and that's the Wim Hof method. So my brother first told me about this technique, about this man who could hold his breath for minutes at a time. He climbed Everest wearing just a pair of shorts. He claims he could escape viruses and endure really, really cold water. In fact, he doesn't claim it, he's done it. And the best thing about it was that he said that anybody can do it using his breathing technique and cold water therapy. Now, naturally, I wanted to give this a go. If you don't already know what I'm talking about, Wim Hof, he's known as the Iceman. His breathing technique has taken the absolute world by storm in the past few years, and for really good reasons. It's very different to Headspace. It's much more intense. It consists of deep breathing for a period of around 60 seconds or 30 breaths, and then holding your breath for as long as you possibly can. And then at the end of your breath hold, you finish with another really deep inhalation. The thing is, the sense of calmness and peace that I felt the first time I did this breath hold was like nothing I'd ever experienced. My mind was so clear, and all I could focus on was my body and how it was reacting to this over intoxication of oxygen from the really deep breathing. You know, I looked this up and the researchers hypothesized a bunch of things that I didn't understand. I'll put it here, but it says that it promotes the spontaneous release of opioids and cannabinoids in the brain, and this effect has the potential to create a feeling of well-being, of mood control and reduced anxiety. Now, I definitely experienced this the first time I did it, especially, and after I finished the first session I felt incredible. I think I did it for around 2 months, like non-stop. He recommends that you combine this with his cold therapy, like ice baths and cold showers. But at the time I was kind of bashing Headspace a little bit because it didn't provide me with the supercharged feeling that the Wim Hof method did. And by the end of it I was able to hold my breath for upwards of 4.5 minutes, and it felt absolutely incredible. Now, in my mind I was planning on doing the Wim Hof method every day for the rest of my life, and as far as I was concerned, nothing was going to stop me. But the one thing is that I meditate in the morning generally, and the Wim Hof method is very intense. The barrier to entry of doing it in comparison to Headspace is much greater, and some days I just didn't feel up to it. It does take a lot of energy. And another thing is that I was always chasing that first craving I got when I first did the Wim Hof method. And the more you do it and the more you increase your expectations, the less likely it is that you'll ever get there again. Which is why I began searching for another form of meditation to try and give me that initial response that I got from the Wim Hof method. Luckily I found one, and that was called Breathwave. Now, because it is not yet a widely adopted practice, you probably haven't heard of Breathwave yet. At first, a good friend of mine described it to me, and I thought it was more or less the same as the Wim Hof method. It wasn't an app, it wasn't pre-recorded, it was actually a live Zoom class that would happen every Wednesday, where the organizer, Ronan, brings you through an hour of deep breathing, of breath holding, while playing this incredible music and recordings in the background. So let me take you through it. Every Wednesday you join a live Zoom class. You lie down on a bed, your throat is facing upwards towards the ceiling, you put on your eye mask, and Ronan takes you through the hour-long session. He tells you to breathe without pausing continuously for a prolonged period of time. From a user, I would describe this form of, it's not really meditation, but it's a mix between Headspace and the Wim Hof method, except on steroids. Ronan describes this a lot better than me, but the deep and prolonged breathing stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. Within these classes, I started laughing out of nowhere. I started crying out of nowhere. My whole body became numb. I hallucinated and even had an outer body experience, all through breathing. It is really difficult to describe someone who hasn't done it before, but anyone who I know who has tried it, and any friends that I've got to try it, have described it as a life-changing experience. Though this is probably the first time you've heard of Breathwave, it's definitely not the last. The classes are purely based on donations and they happen every Wednesday evening, now that's European time, and I'll link the site below for you to have a look at it if you are interested in it. Again, similar to the Wim Hof method, the barrier to entry to Breathwave is quite high because it's a big commitment. So I'm going to conclude on those 4 meditation techniques. What I've learned through the past 7 years of meditating is that you'll never find a one-fit solution. Today, I simply employ a mixture of all of these methods in different situations. Headspace is my rock, and it's my consistent one that I try and use anyway on a daily basis. Wednesdays are my new favourite day of the week because of Breathwave. Wim Hof is something I use sometimes to feel alive, and the universe method is something I use to remind myself that we are but a speck of dust in the grand scheme of things. So what I'd say, go into all of these types of meditation without any expectations. That is the best way to go into any form of meditation. It's about what you make of it, not what other people say. So I'd say use this video as a guide just to bring you to the point at which you're starting with different forms of meditation, and then take from it what you will. I did promise I was going to give you a bonus technique, and I will in just a few seconds. But before I do, if you like what you saw, please drop a like, subscribe, it does mean a lot. And if you have any thoughts or comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'd be delighted to hear. Okay, here's the bonus meditation. Close your eyes, don't open them until you hear 10 different unique sounds. Do it now. Slow on.